it's America. It's very important. It's something that this country really needs. And he's been doing this along with Sadhvi for many years. And as a yoga practitioner, as a devotee not only of the great Vedic heritage and the teachings of India, I also have tremendous respect for the sannyas tradition, and I want to speak a little bit about that because it is the sannyas tradition that originated some time ago with Sri Adi Shankara that has preserved the great wisdom traditions of India for some time now. And many years ago, over 20 years ago, when I was wandering through the Himalayas, visiting caves and experiencing a tremendous wake-up in life, I somehow ended up at Paramath Nikatan on the banks of the river Ganga, and I found a great place to rest my heart. And I, like Sadhvi, was very much challenged by Americana, dysfunctionalism, and many of the challenges that our society lives by and is challenged by in many ways, and from diet to capitalism, and particularly I have a strong connection to the importance of the revival of the feminine energy in this age. I think it's very, very important. And there at Swami's ashram, we didn't meet at that time. I met him subsequently years later with my Vedanta and astrology teacher, David Frawley. I had an opportunity to speak to him briefly, and the experience I had was the very essence of India came through him. I only knew Vedanta as the philosophy of the Vedas, the philosophy of one truth. But as I visited the ashram and experienced the wonderful arati, the light ceremony that they do regularly on the Ganges, on the Ganga River, my heart opened to the beauty, to the essence of what India is. And recently, when reflecting on Swamiji's work, his spiritual, humanitarian work, his seva for the world, it is Vedanta in action. It's not words, it's not stories, it is every moment of it serving, serving, and serving. And as an American boy, I didn't understand that until I was there. And this message that Paramath Nikatan, now for how many years, since the 1940s, is now the largest ashram in Rishikesh. He works, and along with Sadhvi's support, with government groups, with the state of Uttarakhand, a tremendous project to clean up the waters and heal the river Ganga from tremendous pollution and challenge from decades and decades of mistreatment. And I am particularly fond of the Gurukula there, and to see the young boys there chanting, studying Sanskrit, and learning the great teachings of the Vedas and the ideals of a Vedic life. It inspires me tremendously that this bridging of East and West continues to grow. Because in my view, India can heal the world. And the work that Swamiji and Sadhviji's commitment to the Divine Shakti Foundation, which is so important because the Ganga is the stream of life in India. It was the Saraswati, but now the Ganga is being there, and it is the energy of Shakti. It is the energy of inspiration. It is the energy of uniting us and healing us. Adi Shankara once said, Satsanga twe, nihasanga twam, nihasanga twe, nidmoha twam, nidmoha twe, nishala twam, nishala twe, jivan mukti. Satsanga leads to detachment. Satsanga leads us to liberation. This is not merely a social gathering. This is satsanga. This is a gathering highest order. And if Adi Shankara said that, it is very true. And I have always enjoyed, now fortunately, with YouTube and videos, we have satsanga all the time. But to be in the presence of a spiritual master and to have darshan will never, ever leave your life. So I want to say a few things about Sadhvi's book and the reason for this gathering. And I have tremendous respect for the work that she's done. The courage that this woman, that this divine being has taken to leave America, to devote herself to the Guru Shishya Parampara link. That's the guru-disciple relationship. She has devoted her life to the most special, the most sacred relationship that we can ever have. She served her guru. She has served the ashram, India, and anyone who needs healing. And this book tells this very powerful and courageous journey. And I resonate because I left LA too, and it's not easy. These are two very different cultures. But again, the living tradition is now here. It's inside of her. The lights are on. And her light is helping other people, as Swamiji wrote, in the initial pages of her book. It's turning the light on. Once the light is on, everything's very different. And I'm sure that her book is going to help so many of us devote our lives to God, to Guru, and to the highest ideal of Vedic Dharma, which is Moksha Dharma. We're here to liberate. We're here to be in love and to serve each other like brothers and sisters of that one truth, that one divine intelligence. So I'd like to, before I hand over the satsang to Swamiji and Sadhvi, I'd like us to just chant Om together. Let's inhale deep. Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. That is pranams to the Guru. Om Shri.
Thank you so much for such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful introduction. And it's such a blessing to be here. Usually I would begin with a short meditation, but that which Laura led with the chanting, the prayers, the meditation, feels like we're in such a sacred space already. On just a quick logistic note, since there aren't microphones, can you hear me in the back? Fantastic. Great. Okay. If at any point you stop being able to hear me in the back, just raise a hand or something. I'll understand. It means, oh, fantastic. A microphone. Okay. So I love that for two reasons. One being it makes speaking to you so much easier, but two, because as our theme today is the power of grace. Grace takes so many forms. And many of us think of grace as that power of miracles. The ask and ye shall receive power. Ah, there are no microphones. Ah, there is a microphone. Power of grace. And yet, while those stories are beautiful, and I'll certainly share one or two, or we'll see however many come out with you. What I have found over this beautiful 25 years in India is that those miracles of grace are there not as the beginning and end and be all and end all definition of grace, but rather to remind us, just, hey, grace is there. You forgot. You needed a momentary miracle to just remind you. It's not that grace exists in the bestowal of a microphone at the time that one needs one. It's that it's just a beautiful and even fun reminder. Oh yeah, there actually is this presence, this energy. It's not that it always bestows the microphone or whatever it is we need. There's plenty of beautiful teachings in the scripture where the presence of grace actually arrives in its strongest when all else is lost. That it doesn't arrive as the miracle that gives you what you need, but it arrives as the miracle to let you find the ability to be anchored and grounded in joy, in peace, in love, even when there is nothing that you need that arrives. And I remember when I first got to India, I mean, right in the very beginning, and since the book just came out this week, I'm assuming that the vast majority of you have not read it. When I got to India, I didn't know anything about India, about Hinduism, about sanatana Dharma. I came in as an academic. I was in the midst of getting a PhD in psychology. I had graduated undergrad at Stanford and was then doing a PhD in psychology. I grew up in a Reformed Jewish family in Los Angeles. So I knew opportunity, I knew privilege. I also knew great struggle and great challenge and difficulty and trauma. But I didn't know anything about India or the traditions. And I preface it with this because you'll understand with this story that I was really getting the kindergartner version. But in the very beginning, I was speaking with Pujya Swamiji about the presence of God, about the presence of grace, about the way that I struggled and the lack of faith that I had. And he said, one day, I knew he was going to begin a beautiful story. He says, one day, God was having lunch with his wife. And I was like, what? Who was doing what? With whom? Where? And he says, yeah, God was having lunch with his wife. And of course, he pauses and he says, well, I'm giving to you the very basic version. Okay. And he said, so God was having lunch with his wife when suddenly in the middle of lunch, he jumps up and he runs out. And a short while later, he comes back and he sits back down at the table and finishes his lunch. And God's wife says, and he said, well, one of my devotees was in a very, very bad situation, being really, really troubled and challenged. And I needed to go and be there for him, to take care of him. But as I was just about to arrive, I saw that my devotee had picked up rocks and sticks and was beating the person who had been troubling him. And so I realized, well, all right, he's decided to take matters into his own hands. I might as well go back and finish my lunch. Now, you can imagine coming from a Reformed Jewish background, the whole idea of sort of God running out on his lunch and coming back. But Pujya Swamiji said, he's like, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. As the time goes by, you will understand the depth of that story. That was the kindergartner version. He said, the point is that God is always there for you. even when he's in the middle of his lunch. Otherwise, most people, wherever you are, it's like, we're out on lunch break. Call back in an hour. We will reopen in an hour. It's tea time. It's the weekend. It's 5 o'clock. Our time is up. But God, he said, is always ready, even right in the middle of his lunch. Whenever you need, God is there. And that was really the bottom line moral of the story. And it hit me very deeply, from a religious standpoint, because it was not the experience of God that I had been raised with. I was raised in a situation where, for me, for example, on Yom Kippur evening, the day where we are supposed to observe fast, the Day of Atonement, where I remember as a young child being terrified that I or my loved ones, my family members, weren't going to be written in this book of life, which it was said is written and sealed on Yom Kippur, that what the next year is going to bring, who will live, who will die, who will be sick, who will be healthy, who will fail, who will succeed. And that because my mom hadn't let me fast, that somehow God wasn't going to do what I wanted. So I was never someone with that experience of trust and faith in this presence of God. It was always this being to be, and I realize, of course, that this has nothing to do with the different religions so much as it had to do with the very specific way I was raised. I have since met amazing, enlightened Jewish rabbis who, if they had been presiding over my synagogue, I would have had a very different experience of religion and God. But to hear the idea that there was this being, that there was this presence, that there was this energy, this experience in the universe that was here for us. When at 25, I was 25 at that time, I didn't trust anyone or anything. As I said, I had been through a lot of challenges, a lot of trauma, a lot of difficulty, and it had created a sense in my life where I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust people around me not to harm me, not to leave. I didn't trust the universe. I didn't trust my place in the universe. And what I was given, the incredible blessing I was given in India, was an experience of grace into which I could literally exhale with every aspect of who I was. Not just the carbon dioxide from my lungs, but every bit of pain, of trauma, of struggle, of conflict, of all of the very maladaptive ways that I had learned to deal with my pain. Alcohol, drugs, food, Facebook, sex, gambling, shopping, all of the ways that we turn to take us out of the pain of the present moment, which, by the way, a quick but important diversion, addiction is a spiritual quest. But it is a spiritual quest gone awry. The impulse is exactly correct. The impulse says, this pain is not right. This suffering in my mind, in my heart, in my life, this box I feel stuck in is not right. I need to get out of it. And that's a spiritual quest. That's a very beautiful, purely intentioned spiritual quest to get out of the prison of the body, mind, history, identity, false self complex. The problem, as anyone who's ever either dabbled or deeply suffered in addiction to anything knows, it doesn't work. So it doesn't actually help us. So it's a very maladaptive way of doing it, but it's a way that so many of us turn when we don't know how else to get out of the pain. And that was the experience that I was living. And the gift that I was given was this experience of grace into which I could literally give the pain, the anger, the suffering, the maladaptive ways of dealing with the suffering. And it was taken. And that presence of grace for me has been one where, yes, it shows up sometimes in these beautiful, fun miracles. There is no mic, there is a mic. Oh, and I promised at least one story, so I'll share at least one story of that. It's one of my favorites. We were in London many years ago in wintertime. And we were staying in the suburbs outside of the city. And one of the things that many people do in the wintertime, especially Indians who love to wear saris and don't like to cover up the saris with sweaters or shawls that might, not enable them to move through the world as freely and happily as they would be just in a sari blouse, is they crank up the heat to ungodly numbers. And so the house was really hot, it was really dry. We then get in the car to drive into the city to go to have lunch at the home of some devotees. In the car, the heat is on. And it's important to preface it with, prior to going to London, I had been suffering again. The initial experience of grace blasted my heart open, transformed my entire way of understanding myself and the universe. But it didn't remove my entire psychic system from me. And that's important to mention, because a lot of us think that when I just have a spiritual experience, somehow that's enough. And somehow I don't also have to deal with a lot of the ways that I still struggle. And this is where, on a side note, that beautiful intersection of spirituality and psychology comes, meditation and introspection comes, where we do both. So prior to London, I happened to be in one of those moments of struggle in my own mind. And Pujya Swamiji knew about it. I always shared it, and he would always give something. A story, a teaching, or an experience that would pull me out of that. So fast forward, we're in London. I'm in a hot, dry car after a hot, dry house. And we are where we're having lunch, who happen to be very, very, very well-to-do Indians. And Indians are the most brilliant hosts in the world. They know how to take care of you in a way that no culture I've ever experienced does. So I knew, all right, we're going to get there. I'm going to be handed a lot of water and I'll be great. So we get there and they ask, would you like tea or coffee, soft drinks? Didn't want any of that, just wanted water. Knew that they were going to just bring the water anyway, because that's sort of the standard procedure. They bring water anyway, but they didn't. And one of the things that Pujya Swamiji has taught is don't ask. The universe is going to provide. Just have faith. So I'm sitting there going, and again, they go, would you like some tea? Would you like some coffee? Would you like a Coke, a Sprite? No, but I'm just thinking, for God's sakes, would somebody just give me a glass of water? And we finally leave and we get in the car, and they never brought water. We finally get in the car, and I say to the sweet devotee who's driving us, I'm like, do me a favor, just pull over at the next convenience store you see, because I really need to buy a bottle of water. And Swamiji says, we're arriving at our next spot in like 7 minutes. Just, you'll get it when you get there. Why waste the 2, 3, 4 pounds? Put that money to better use. We run all of these charities. Like, you'll get a glass of water when you get where we're going. So, okay. So our next spot is other beautiful devotees who run a printing press. And we actually were at their office, not their home. And they had just bought these brand new printing machines that they wanted Pujya Swamiji to put his hands on and bless. And they also run these big events, big dinners. And as we walk into the room where the printing presses are, from floor to ceiling are these boxes of Snapple and like any drink. And by that point, I would have drank anything. But you can't really say to somebody, hey, could you open, this big box of... We walk out after the blessing of the Sheens. They have not offered us water. The women are at home. The men are in the office showing the printing presses. And we walk out and we get onto the sidewalk where the car is parked right there. And we're at the door of their offices. And we're just about to cross the sidewalk to get in the car. And a British gentleman, a random white, non-Indian British gentleman walking home from doing his grocery shopping, walks by, and he's got grocery bags on hanging down both arms. And in his hands, he's carrying one of those flats of water. The cardboard boxes, and you've got 12, 24 bottles, and they're covered in plastic. And he stops. And Pujya Swamiji motions for him to pass, because we should always let other people pass and then we go. So he motions for him to pass, but the man won't go. And he stops and he says, may I offer you a bottle of water? So Pujya Swamiji says, maybe just one. And the man says, please, let me put the whole flat in your car. You never know when you're going to need a bottle of water. So we get in the car and he says to me, see, for every single time you said to God, I am so thirsty, he has sent you a bottle of water. And I love the stories, and they're fun. And of course, we had beautiful lecture material all night for the rest of the trip in London. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience to happen. And yet, those are just to remind us. I had been going through a difficult time. I was doubting. I was struggling. It wasn't about the water. It was about that presence hitting me with that baseball bat that I seemed to really need to remember. Oh yeah, you're not alone. Oh yeah, it's not up to you. And for me, what the presence of grace has done in my life is given me this experience. It's not that challenges are not there when grace is there. It's not that grace comes and suddenly everything you want happens, the stock market goes in your favor, everybody's nice to you, you get the job you want, nothing like that. But grace is that presence that is with you, that is holding your hand, that is being with you as the challenges of life come. Think of being on a train. You're on a train and you're going somewhere you've got to get to. You've got an important engagement, an important meeting. And suddenly the train stalls. It's stuck. Something breaks. You've got no water. You've got no food. The electricity in the train goes out. There's no light. You don't have a mobile phone. You can't call them and tell them you're going to be late. You're miserable. You're frustrated. You're annoyed. You start to panic. Now imagine the exact same situation, but sitting next to you is someone you've just fallen in love with. Now suddenly, the universe has so beautifully conspired to give you this time. No distractions. This beautiful time to just be together. And for me, that is what the experience of grace has been like. It doesn't mean trains don't stall. It doesn't mean you get to your destination always, either on time or ever. It doesn't mean you don't find yourself without food or water or a working mobile or whatever it may be. But it means that whatever is happening in your life, that presence is there. It is not a vending machine that gives you what you want. It is not a magic wand. It is not. And I say this so emphatically because a lot of us think, well, why is grace not here for me? You say, well, why do you think grace isn't here? Well, because this has happened, that has happened, this hasn't happened, that hasn't happened. You think, well, when in the world did grace promise you? When I arrive, I'm going to come with the job you've always wanted, with the bank account you've always wanted, with the body you've always wanted, with this that you... In fact, the beautiful teaching of the Bhagavad Gita, the core scripture in many ways you can say of sanatana Dharma. One of the core teachings of it, Arjuna, I won't go into the story here, we don't have time, but it's a battlefield. It's the battlefield of the war of the Mahabharata, and the Gita is this scripture being spoken on the battlefield by Krishna, by God, to us through Arjuna. Now, not only is grace there, but God is there, literally, embodied in form right there, driving your chariot. And Arjuna says to him in the beginning, when Arjuna says, I don't want to fight this battle, he says, I could die. Now, Krishna is God. He could very easily have said to Arjuna, don't worry. I'm here. You're going to be victorious. Nothing's going to happen to you. I promise. I can see the future. We've got this in the bag. Don't worry. But he doesn't. He doesn't. He says, yeah, you could. But to die fulfilling your Dharma is 1,000,000 times better than to live forever but not fulfill your Dharma. But I mention it here, not to go off into a discussion of Dharma, but to go off into the discussion that the presence even of God, right there driving your chariot, is not, you will not die, you will not get sick, your children will not be killed, but that you, in the midst of the challenges, will know your truth. You will be anchored and grounded in the fullness and the truth of who you are, that is beyond the identifications, that is beyond the drama, that is beyond the history, that is beyond the stories, you will be one with that infinite presence. You will be one with love, with truth, with consciousness. And that's what grace gives us. And so as you pray for grace, open to grace, don't expect it to come like a vending machine or like a genie in a bottle that's going to give you your 3 wishes. Expect it to come as that presence of the divine with you when the train is going and when the train is stopped. That's going to be with you at all times. And the only thing we need is to get our self, our lowercase s self, out of the way enough for it to flow. And I'll end by just sharing this personal story for me of how that flow of grace, how I learned to allow it in my life. In the evening, in Rishikesh at Parmarth Nikathan, we have this sacred arti ceremony, sacred lighting ceremony. And afterwards, we gather for what is called satsang, as was explained so beautifully, that literally means in the presence of truth. The presence of that capital T truth, the truth of who we are, a truth that defies all borders, all boundaries, that capital T eternal truth. And what it usually looks like is something like this. Sometimes we meditate, sometimes we chant and sing, sometimes there's a discourse. Most of the time it's question and answer sessions. And people ask questions. And this was maybe 15 years ago or so. I had been there maybe 10 years approximately. And the group was gathered and they were asking Pujya Swamiji questions. And someone asked a question to him about anger and forgiveness. And he says, Sadhviji. Now I thought it was Sadhviji, comma. And I was waiting for the second part of the instruction. And I thought it was going to be Sadhviji, go and get them a copy of my book in which I write so beautifully about anger and forgiveness. Or Sadhviji, take their details and make sure to send them this article that we've just done on anger and forgiveness. And I'm waiting. And nothing. And I turned to him, and his eyes are closed, and he's sitting in meditation. And it took me a moment to realize that it was Sadhviji, period, not Sadhviji, comma. And that he was wanting me to give the answer. And I had done a lot of public speaking already by that time, but it was public speaking where I knew in advance the topic I was going to have to talk about. There was at least 10, 15 minutes that one had to gather one's thoughts about a topic. And if he had said to me, go out, prepare yourself, you've got 15 minutes, come back in, talk on anger and forgiveness, no problem. But right there in that moment, and so I closed my eyes, and I'm an academic by heart and by a lot a lot of the first decades of my life. And as an academic, I always worked with index cards. I used to have boxes of index cards, and you'd write the question on one side and the answer on the other. Or if I had to do reports, I always would do them with index cards, and you'd arrange them. And so I closed my eyes and I tried to arrange the index cards in my brain of what an appropriate lecture on anger and forgiveness might look like. Where would I start? What would my topic sentence be? But I'm acutely aware of the eyes of this group staring at me. And as anyone who's ever experienced stress knows, it very severely impedes our ability to do anything. And so now the index cards are like flying around my mind, and I can't see them. I can't read what's on any of them. I'm starting to panic. And I realize I can't do this. I'm freezing. My mind is blank, but not in a good way. And I look at Pujya Swamiji again, and he's just, there's no way he's going to bail me out. And so I close my eyes, and I say to him in my mind, I'm so sorry. I don't have it in me. And in my mind, I bow down to him. I'm so sorry. I don't have it in me. And I open my eyes, fully prepared to just face this group staring at me and my own humiliation at not having even one index card worth of an answer. And as I exhale, my mouth opens and words start to come out. And they just keep coming. And people are crying. And many, many, many minutes pass and the words just keep coming. And later on, people said to me, God, I heard you gave this beautiful satsang tonight. What did you say? I had no idea. And I close with this because from that point to this point, about 15 years, it's still the same. It's all about getting out of the way. It's not about what do I have in me. It's about what can I get out of the way to flow through me. You sang the Hanuman Chalisa so beautifully before we came in. And Hanumanji gives us the answer when people asked him, how did you do all of these feats, all of these miracles? How did you fly across the ocean? How did you become enormous and tiny and carry the Himalayas? He said, I just take Lord Ram's name. I take God's name and it happens. It happens. I just close my eyes and take his name and it happens. And whether the miracle is carrying a mountain or getting a bottle of water or finding peace and joy in yourself, living your Dharma, living connected to truth and love and light. That's the miracle of grace. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful blessing to ask Pujya Swamiji to share with us on that power and that presence of grace.
Please close your eyes. Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Garudadhvaja Mangalam Pundarikaksho Mangalayatano Harihi Sarvamangalamahangalye Shive Sarvarth Sadhike Sharanye Triambake Gauri Narayani Namostute Narayani Namostute Narayani Namostute Brahma Muraris Tripurantakari Bhanu Shashibhu Misuto Buddhasha Guruscha Shukha Shanirahu Ketava Sarve Graha Shantikara Bhavantu Sarve Graha Shantikara Bhavantu Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Respected Sadhviji, my dear divine, beautiful souls, we had a beautiful introduction and great opening by our divine soul, and it was wonderful, very divine. And now, respected Sadhviji has shared her story, how the power of grace she has realized in her life. It's all power of grace that where she is today. I can see. I remember when she came, I'll share it with you. And coming all the way from Hollywood to the Himalayas, and at the age of 25, it's an amazing story. I'll share it, but first, because as you started with Shankaracharya's beautiful mantra, I'll start with the Shankaracharya's beautiful mantra, how the power of grace works in our life. Shankaracharya said, explained beautifully, Mevaitat anugrah hetukam durlabham Tray mevaitat deva anugrah hetukam manushyatvam mumukshutvam mahapurusha. Three things are durlabham, very difficult to attain in our life, and only that we can attain, achieve Deva Anugrah Hetukam, only the power of the grace. Of the divine, we can attain these three things. Number one, Manushya, having this beautiful human body. I don't have a time to go in detail. This is so important and so amazing to have this beautiful human. Manushyatvam, mumukshatvam, for jigyasa, to learn, to be that light, to have that knowledge, to seek for that knowledge. There are so many. Why only you sitting on this beautiful weekend? And especially during COVID time, removing this fear also away, nothing is going to happen. And you are here. And third, Maha Purusha Sanshaya, as he explained so beautifully, Satsanga, in the presence of the truth. Satsang means in the presence of the truth. Just being there. Even not listening. I don't remember when I was with my divine master, ever I asked any question even. I was just there, just seeing at him, looking at him, being there in his presence. And things happen so beautifully. Light is turned on. So it's all grace. And the day one, I remember it happened in our family. I can start from there as Sadhviji started from her life. I can start from my life, at how the light was turned on. I remember one of the days our uncle was going, he was shifted from New Delhi to Shimla. He was an engineer. And in India, there is a tradition. Everybody will go to see him off at the railway station. The train was going to Shimla. There were no airports in those areas. And people are so excited till the last minute. They will be wishing him well, they will be talking. And they forget even train has to go. And the last minute, when the train gave the whistle, everybody started coming down. But my mother was the last one because her brother was going. So she was very attached to him. The last minute, everybody said, move, move, train has moved. Move, jump. She's just 1 minute. And she was the last one and she was coming down. In that time, train moved very fast. And rather than facing towards the direction train was moving, she faced other direction and she started coming down. The moment she came down, the pull of the train was so much, because train was in speed, she went straight into the track. Everybody was very scared. Train was so fast that she is gone now. And they started to pull the chain, but by the time train stopped, whole train was gone through it. And everybody was so shocked, and now she's over. But moment the last bogie of the train passed, and she just stood up, Sadguru, 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 Sadguru. And my father said, you know what happened to you? You were gone. She said, where I was gone? I am on. Because of my master, because of my Sadguru. He said, no, you don't know what happened to you. He said, nothing happened to me. I was carried by someone so lightly, so nicely, that I don't even remember that something happened to me. She was told, she was explained everything, the whole situation. She came back home, everybody was there. And first thing she did, she started thinking in her mind all along the route. And she said to Dad, as you said, explain to me, I was gone. If I'm on, I am back, maybe there is a purpose. By the power of the grace, I am back. Now let me work for that grace. Now from today, you and me will be brother and sister, she said. One is power of the grace that you are saved. Another is power of the grace you realized. That realization is a power of grace, which strengthens you, which keeps you together, which anchors you. And she said, from today, I don't forget that line. We were all sitting together, and in front of everybody, she talked to my dad. Dad said, we'll talk later, because he was not in mood to listen this, that you are brother and sister. He said, at that time I didn't understand that, because I was only 8. I was very young. And he said, yeah, we'll talk later. Anyway, she became quiet, but later on, maybe they must have discussed. India, basically, if somebody dies in the family, they mostly wear the white clothes. And somebody goes on the path of Vairagya, also, they change no more colors now, only one color of purity, means white. And she changed her clothes, took her everything away, emptied her cupboard, and only simple, pure khadi, cotton, white clothes she took out. And she said, from now on, I'll wear this, I'll sleep on the floor, small mat, no pillow, no blanket, very simple life. And she devoted her whole life for the grace. And later on, I came to know, then she talked to my father also. Even he was not ready at that time, but he said, okay, if you want this way, we are brother and sister. And there are many stories after that also, how that one night we were sleeping on the rooftop on the third floor, and my mother was sleeping on the first floor. We all were there, father and other brothers and sisters. I came down to drink water, and I saw my father just standing near the window and just telling my mom, open the window, open the door. She said, but she said, what? We have vows. She said, but we are husband and wife, but we have vows. Later on, I was explained. This time also, I did not understand vows, and I was very young. I was 8. But he knocked again. He said, even Krishna and Radha also. She said, don't say that to me. First become like a Krishna. Understand? Understand the true meaning of that story? It was not physical. And all those things and lines just kept working in my mind, but I could not understand anything, why they are fighting. But my mom did not open the door. She was very determined. I saw her in my young age, 3 hours, like a stone, sitting in meditation. She gave her life. It's a long story. Many things are there. And how this all sanskaras of grace came to me. And then one day, one holy saint came. They went for satsang to listen to him. They were very impressed. They invited the holy man to come home to have lunch with them. Holy man comes and had the lunch. When he was going, my inner feeling came to me that I should talk to him. Even I was so young. I took his shawl, held his shawl. I said, can I become Swamiji? Can you take me with you? He said, finish your studies. I'll come back and we'll do that. There are many stories. I'm not giving you all of that because in few minutes, we have to share a few other things. Again, after 6 months, he comes back. Again, same thing happened. They invited him, went for the satsang. He came home. Again, I told him. He said, I told you last time, finish your studies, then I will come, we'll talk. But I said, I don't know what happened to me. The day you touched me, gave me your blessing, something happened to me. Something is happening. He said, I know what is happening, don't worry. Just study. But I was persistent, just away from that idea. Rather than saying no to me, he said, okay, if you want to come with me, before you come with me, you have to observe 1 year of silence at home. In that home, you can see your brothers and sisters, you can see your parents, you can meet anybody, you cannot come out from that room. You have to be boxed in that room. And so many other very hard and fast rules. He gave it to me. That finally I will say no, because these way you cannot eat this, you cannot eat this, you cannot eat this. The kind of family I was raised, you need 5 times to eat. And here, he said 1 time to eat, then also lentils, boil the lentils, no salt, not this. In America, no salt is delicacy. But in India, no masalas, no salt, not possible. No food without masalas. So I said, okay, whatever you say. But when he was leaving, he said, 1 glass of milk in the night, mother will give it to you. But you can't see the mother. It will be outside in the veranda. When she's gone, you go, you take and come back. But you will not see her. So many rules he gave it to me. Ultimately, I said, no problem. When I should start, he said, tomorrow morning. He didn't want to give me choice. That finally I will say, no, I don't want to do it. It's very hard. Look at the power of grace, how it works in life. And sadhana started being in one room alone in that age. First, accepting that what he said, it's also a grace. It is not easy in that age. This is a grace. How that power of grace works in your life. And then understanding, make you understand that grace, how it works. In that young age, being alone, no one is in the room, not meeting parents, not seeing anybody. And the sadhana started. There are amazing story how the mothers work. Mothers are amazing people on this earth. How the mother's heart melts, how she trains you, how she prepares you, repairs you. There are so many stories, maybe I'll share maybe next time because time is very short. But after that, 1 year of silence. Master comes, silence was open. I said, now you take me with you. He said, not yet. But I said, you told me after 1 year. He said, not yet. You have to be in the jungle, in the forest. I said, forest? First thing came to me, forest, jungle means ghost. I said, I'm very afraid of ghost. I cannot go to the jungle. He said, I'm talking about God and you're talking about ghost. I will give you the mantra. I'll give you the mantra. With the power of that mantra, nobody will touch you on this earth. To cut the story short, gave me the mantra, took me to the forest, left me alone there in the jungle, no blanket, no sweater, no socks. Winter is horrible winter. And no socks, no sweater, no jacket, no blanket, nothing, and no heater. You are in the small 5 by 6 small hut, no place to even sleep. And one small mat, no pillow, one brick for the pillow. Candle. Just for like a bean. It's not that. Main thing is the grace is there. Whatever is needed will be there. Needs or desires. Main thing is how to go beyond that. How to have a connection. It's not the collection. How you can have that connection. Grace. Sometimes we pray and we work, but this power of grace works for the collection also. That comes, but it's not main thing that how we can collect more things. It's the connection. Today, people have everything set. They have a TV set, they have sound set. So many machines and gadgets are today. Sofa set, even dining set, even jewelry set. So many things. You go to the cupboard of somebody, my God. Amazing. Everything is set. But in spite of everything set, people are set. And this is spirituality, which many stories I wanted to share, but I saw the clock. So maybe some other time, my personal stories. But let me tell you, what is that which makes you set in spirituality? And that is the story of Sadhvi ji. Just imagine being born here, being graduated from the Stanford. You are middle of your PhD, doing your in child psychology, neuropsychology, and coming all this. Not that somebody doing kirtan and came to Rishikesh. It's different. Being a scientist, coming all the way to Rishikesh, looking at Mother Ganga. I found my home. Called Daddy, said, "Are you crazy? Found my home? What was not here? But you were missing." But this is power of grace. The light was turned on. That moment. And being there, I could see when she was 25. In last 25 years, now she's there. I have seen her journey from the day one. What she was, how she came, everything was set here. Outside, everything was set. But in I think she was not set. She was looking for the to forgive, how to let go, how to serve others, how to share with others, how to give others, how not. Mostly people ask, what for me? What for me? Why I should work? What is there for me? Only mostly life is what for me. But she learned life is not what for me, life is what through me. And whatever she learned, there are many things. I can go on, but time is very short. And then she started sharing with others. And the people I have seen, we receive people from 150 countries in our ashram. 150 countries. You have spoken there also. Ariel was there. Laura comes every year. And in one international yoga festival, people from more than 101 countries are there. Come. I have seen people from all religions, people from all walks of life, rich to poor, poor to rich, young to old, and old to young. Everyone comes. And the way she explains her stories, her experiences, her journey to me, I think is a healing and transformation. Whole journey became healing and transformation. How she healed and how people being healed and transformed through her touch. I don't And that's what all is in that book. That Hollywood to the Himalayas. And to me now, the Himalayas is coming to Hollywood and to the whole world. That how your Himalayas can be right here, wherever you are. It's not, maybe many times you cannot travel to India. You can't go to Rishikesh. But how the Rishikesh can dance for you here in your own heart. All of that is through that book. You can learn. It will not only teach you, but transform you. To me, this book is not mere teaching, it's a touch of her own journey. God bless you, Sadhvi ji, that even whole world is blessed when I see your journey, that how you have given your life, not easy to leave America. As you said, I also went, left America, I'm back. Not easy. But being here also, my dear, I'm very proud of you, the way you are living. Wonderful. And that's what has to happen. Even you are there or here, Himalayas can be right here in your heart, wherever you go. God bless you, and I love you. And last but not least, whenever, I think COVID is over here in America, most of that, okay, hopefully. So God bless you, because the mantras I chanted because of that how we can end this. And you can travel again freely and become free. And come there, have that divine experience, and welcome home. Just one ticket and home will be ready. God bless you.
Before we moment, it's timeless and yet it goes very quickly. But I did just, in case there was anyone or any two people who had questions that really felt important to be asked, I wanted to make sure that we opened space for them. I think we're going to have to come back and do a longer time of more stories, more meditation, more questions and answers, but I did just want to open it up if there were a question or two that felt deeply important, that we would take them before closing. Yes.
So, what's the relationship or the difference or something between Sanatana Dharma and Hindu? Or what is it? It's explained.
So he asked the connection between Sanatana Dharma and Hinduism. So Sanatana Dharma, which is actually how Hindus refer to their own religion, literally means an eternal way of life. It's how the people of this land, the land that we now call India, but a land that was much bigger than what is currently